SNAP lunch. I was in the State House in North Carolina before I came here, and anytime I'd go visit an elementary school, the first thing I would do is go to the trash cans in the cafeteria. And what we have now are kids that are not eating the food because the dictates of the federal government have made it something that they don't want. But they say, well, it's a healthy alternative. It has processed materials in it, and it's not particularly attractive to them. So they throw it away. Trash cans full of food that these kids didn't eat. So then
we are here, and this is what's going on.
They drink a sugared drink. The SNAP program, everything you've said about the SNAP
That's Senator
program,
Tom Tillis asking questions of RFK Jr. Man, oh man, is it going down? And I've got the audio because I was able to get all the stuff that happened beforehand. And there's a lot of madness, but this hearing is everything. I've got it for you. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Let's get to the radio show.
And I feel like we've got these kids that need help. We've got to guide them through a process. Many of them are probably on Medicaid, and Medicaid's failing them. Everybody here says Medicaid is sacrosanct. Nobody's admitted that Medicaid is not producing positive health outcomes. Is that your problem in Medicaid right now? The program or the outcomes?
Is the outcomes. We're spending $900 billion. Our people are getting sicker every single year.
Yeah. So anybody
President Trump wants people to have it, Americans to have a high quality insurance.
Anybody who's building a case for the status quo of Medicaid is by extension saying that they're happy with the outcomes. I think it's unacceptable.
That is Senator Tom Tillis asking questions as we speak. Well, depending on when you heard this, of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his first day of confirmation hearings to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You guys know I'm a no vote. I am based on his history, but people do change and things can change, and you got to accept the fact that sometimes you're not always going to win. I don't think I'm going to win this one. And there are a fair amount of senators who seem to understand that he's going to get confirmed. Maybe in that same 50-50 that Hegseth got confirmed, maybe it's going to be just like that. That's how I think it's going to go down for Tulsi Gabbard. But I'm a no vote for a guy who just a couple years ago thought you should go to jail for not believing in climate change. Never mind his positions on abortion. That's not somebody I put in charge of health and human services. Advocating from the outside, on childhood health and obesity, absolutely no issues. No problems whatsoever. I'm totally fine with it. But being able to make policy, no, I'm not there. And I'm still not there. That said, my gosh, these members of the Democratic Party, they have yet to be able to figure it out. They can't do the basic math. Because even when they're winning, they can't seal the deal because they can't focus. I am often discussing how the political left always overplays their hand. Always, 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 always. And this hearing is no different. And I'm going to share a bunch of it with you. Yes, I'll share Elizabeth Warren. What am I not going to? What are my options? Gotta do it. Gotta share Elizabeth Warren. And she's just terrible.
Of these people.
That's absolutely true. Factual. But there is only one senator who managed to create a situation, I think, where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. looked bad, sounded incapable, sounded unable, and I think hurt him. But we'll get to that. But right now, it's Bernie Sanders.
And I strongly agree with that effort. Despite spending, as you indicated, 2 or 3 times as much per capita on healthcare as other nations, we have 85 million people who are uninsured, underinsured. We have all kinds of chronic illnesses. Our life expectancy is lower than other countries. And for working class people in this country, they are living 6-7 years shorter lives than the top 1%. We got a problem, okay? And I'm going to suggest some ideas that I think can remedy that. Last year, the insurance industry in this country made over $70 billion, while at the same time 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. Do you agree with me that the United States should join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a human right? Yes? No?
Senator, I can't give you a yes or no answer to that question.
Healthcare a human right? Is healthcare a human right?
In the way that free speech is a human right,
Yeah.
I would say it's different, because if with free speech doesn't cost anybody anything, but in healthcare, if you smoke cigarettes for 20 years and you get cancer, you are now taking from the pool.
Well,
and so are you guaranteed the same right, or is there also a duty?
I'm sorry. I'd love to talk for an hour with you. We got a few minutes left here. All right. Every other country on earth says healthcare, whether you're poor or rich.
Won't answer his question the way he wants.
Human right. I'm not hearing you say that. All right. You've talked about the drug companies, and maybe we agree on this one. As you all know, despite the drug companies making over $100 billion in profits, paying CEOs outrageous compensation packages, we in some cases pay 10 times more for the same drug. Will you support legislation that I will introduce which says that in America we should not be paying a nickel more for prescription drugs than people around the rest of the world? Yes, no?
To equalize it?
Not to equalize it, that we should not be paying more than other countries for the same damn drug.
President Trump has asked me, in fact, I had a meeting with President Trump a week ago where we showed him the charts.
He knows the charts.
We're paying 10 times more from Europe.
That's right. And are you going to commit to us that you will end that absurdity?
I think in principle we can. We should end that disparity.
Good. Okay. That's great. All right. I happen to believe.
How in the world do you end it without engaging a level of price fixing? I'm just curious how that works. And that's exactly what it is Bernie Sanders wants, and worse. But back to Bernie Sanders.
In your judgment, is climate change a hoax, or is it real, causing devastating problems?
President Trump and I, from the beginning, from our first meeting, agreed to disagree on that issue. I believe climate change is existential. My job is to make Americans healthy again.
All right, you believe that you disagree with Trump. You don't think climate change is a hoax, is what I'm hearing.
My job here is to
I'll
make
just ask you that,
healthy.
Mr. Kennedy, not a trick question.
I answered your question, Senator Sanders.
Okay, you disagree with the president on that.
I answered your question.
Okay. I'm going to pick up on a point that Senator Hassan made. Look, there is no question that abortion is a divisive issue in this country.
This is bad.
I would say a majority of the
RFK is not
people
looking great
are
here.
pro-choice. There's a strong minority who are pro-life. A year and a half ago, you went to New Hampshire, running for president, gave a speech, and you talked about government should not tell a woman what she can do with her own body. That's her choice. Now, I think everybody on that side is pro-life. I think everybody here is pro-choice. I have never seen any major politician flip on that issue quite as quickly as you did when Trump asked you to become HHS secretary. Tell me why you think people should have confidence in your consistency and in your word when you really made a major U-turn on an issue of that importance in such a short time.
Senator, I believe, and I've always believed, that every abortion is a tragedy.
But you told the people in New Hampshire that it was their right. All right, let me do a last question here because I'm running out of time. I think the gist of what you're trying to say today is you're really pro-vaccine, you want to ask questions. You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
That was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that call. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with
Are you
leadership.
supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Blackburn.
Are you supportive of these onesies? I mean, we live in the most amazing timeline. I will tell you that did not go well for RFK, because his past does not go well for him. He's a progressive. He's a leftist. He always has been. He wanted to throw you in jail if you didn't believe in climate change. Yes, he's always been a pro-abortion guy. If putting his record up in front of him is such a problem, well then, sorry, if you have a problem with that, you're nuts. I'm not saying he did something once and then he didn't do it again, right? People have second acts and people do change. I wholeheartedly believe this. I agree. I believe. I concur. I find that to have immense value. Yet, what Sanders just did to him, I mean, that's rough. That is rough stuff. Put up against your own organization, put up against your own words. You won't come out and admit it. You won't come out and say it. And no, he didn't answer the question regarding abortion. If you ask me if I think RFK is an interesting play when it comes to health, yeah, I do, actually. Talking about children's health, talking about the levels of sugar, what it is that they ingest, these conversations about chronic illness, man, that is good stuff. And so valuable. And there is a lot cross-platform or cross-party here. There are a lot of moms who are absolutely all over this argument, all over this conversation. No question about that. None. I want to see him be able to have a microphone to do that. I just don't think it comes from being the secretary. That said, I think he's going to get confirmed. Although I don't know yet the ramifications of this this hearing. I don't know what's going to be a level of fallout here. The only two people to score real hits, although I got to go back and listen to Elizabeth Warren, and she makes me ill. Michael Bennet and Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders scored some hits. I think Michael Bennet of Colorado absolutely scored some hits. And I think these hits could actually get some people to ask some questions. And I don't think that these were hits based on something that is well out of the realm, out of the norm, out of conversation, out of rational thought. But rather, this is a hold up of a mirror and say, wait, who are you? Where are you? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? Because this is what you used to believe, and this is what you believe now. This is what you said yesterday, and this is what you said today. This is what you did over here, and this is what you did over here. And part of the problem is that Robert Kennedy Jr. is not built for the level of response. I don't question. I've interviewed the man. I thought he was very pleasant. But he is not built for the glib, quick society. He is built for a little bit of thinking and then responding in fullness. This requires the very idea of how fast can you answer? how clear can the message be delivered in just a short amount of time? So I don't think that's the way his mind works. And then to follow up, the voice issues and this chronic issue that he has keeps him from being able to respond with a fluidness. And that allows for members of the committee to take advantage of him in that they can find places to interject where he's thinking of what it is he wants to say or finding his place in his voice to say it. And then they're interjecting, preventing him from finishing a thought. And you could say to me, well, then they're being rude. And I'll say to you, yeah, except if he was fluid, they would just interrupt him anyway. But I do think that is part of the issue. He's not built for this in the way Bondi was or Hegseth was. Not that Bondi or Hegseth are smarter or somehow more capable of this, but rather these things about how he thinks and then the actual vocal presentation. But that said, he's got a problem. His own history is the problem, and it's fine to use his own history against him. It is absolutely, positively fine. I'll share with you some of the other things that got asked, some of the other things that got discussed. I say that RFK will get confirmed, but I think it's going to squeak on through, if that. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, guys. Tony Katz. Good to be with you. The hearing is going on. So rare moment. Went to light my cigar. I was going to do a Connecticut from Havana Special. And man, that thing would just not smoke. Something in it was just plugged up, wrapped too tight. Remember, when you're dealing with a cigar, you're dealing with a handmade product. These things can happen, right? It doesn't mean, oh, what a terrible cigar. I have others. I'll smoke a different one. But it happened. Just was not working, and maybe it was just where it was in the humidor. It wasn't in proper humidification, whatever it is. I went to the underrated right here. So this is from Luciano Cigars. This is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. Going to have some nice natural sweet to that Nicaraguan in the binder. The filler is Connecticut broadleaf. I am a sucker for Connecticut broadleaf. Love it. Absolutely love. I should say I love Connecticut broadleaf in Pennsylvania. I love that stuff. I am a sucker for a Cameroon wrapper. Oh, that's where I live and breathe. That's the good stuff. Although I will admit my palate's been changing, which happens, right? You find things that you're more interested in, more accustomed to. We're gonna have more on this RFK hearing coming up as more and more senators start asking their questions. They'll end up breaking soon. There we go. Much easier. Much easier. Good. Good. And for those of you, sorry, a little bit of a runny nose. It's allergies. I know. It's January. It doesn't make any sense. For those of you who've been following me on Twitter, there at Tony Katz, yes, I have been petitioning CNN to give me the midnight to 2 a.m. show. If Jim Acosta won't take it, I think they should give it to me. I absolutely positively do. And I will explain it. I will absolutely explain why I think they should give it to me. And how in the world would I do it? Well, I don't have a good answer for that yet, but I'll figure it out. There we go, right there. And let me get over to this, and we'll get back to the hearing in just a moment. Border crossings are down. It's beautiful. You take a look at the numbers. President Trump posted those. You take a look at the numbers. Daily encounters of undocumented migrants without repatriations and returns to Mexico in January of 2025. The last 19 days of the Biden administration, 2,000. That was the daily average. The daily average now, 148. Tony Katz today. What are you doing, everybody? 833-468-8669, 833 got Tony. That's how you get to be a part of the show. That's how you can be a part of the whole thing. Well, when you have now set a standard by which we're not going to accept these things, we're not going to do these things, we're not going to be a part of these things, people do get the message. And people have gotten the message, and certainly they've seen the levels of deportations that have taken place, and they've said, oh, and they've seen the video of a mother back in Colombia saying, yeah, I got deported. Okay, these guys are not playing around. This is not Biden. The Biden guys were playing around. Those guys were just ridiculous people and liars and frauds and all that jazz. That's what they were. I get, but this Trump thing is pretty legit. And so, okay, we're not gonna show up, or we're gonna take our chances. We're gonna take our shot. Whatever the case is, they can still do that. They can still take their chance. They can still take their shot. But we should discuss what's working, and we're going to get into it. And let's start with a recognition that results do often beget results. I will have that coming up. One other thing. Yesterday, we heard Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, state that Donald Trump was letting everybody know that they looked into the drones. They checked out the drones. They are like, what were all those drones in New Jersey? And Donald Trump wanted everybody to know that these were not a threat. They were not the enemy. It was enthusiasts and other people, and people were getting curious. And so they started flying more drones, and that's all it was. And that's it. Nothing else.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
For the record, I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I don't believe her. I don't believe him. I can't believe they said it. Nope. No. They weren't a threat. Fine. Exactly what were the size of these drones? Who was flying them? What level of capability did they have? What are you going to do to keep drones from shutting down airports in the future? I'm sorry. I may have wanted Trump. I may have voted for Trump, but there are still questions and things that have to be answered by the FAA and others. That doesn't change. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. Let's see. Where are we with
Medicaid?
About 72 million plus the 7 million kids who are on chips.
Appreciate that, 72 million. Yes or no, is it important that expectant mothers and newborns have access to health coverage? Is it important that expectant mothers and newborns have access to health coverage?
Absolutely, Senator.
Mr. Kennedy, do you know how many babies born in this country are covered through Medicaid?
I would guess, I don't know the answer. I would guess about that is 30 million.
I have it, Mr. Kennedy. About 41% or 1.4 million babies births are financed by Medicaid, according to the National Center for Health Statistics. Yes or no, do you believe that Medicaid is a critical program?
I believe that Medicaid is a critical program, but that it's not working as well as it ought to be. And President Trump has asked me to make it work better, that most Americans are not happy with it. The premiums are too high, the deductibles are too high, and everybody's getting sicker. Too much money is going to
Mr.
the
Kennedy,
insurance industry.
I have a series of yes or no questions. They're pretty simple.
Yes,
Because you heard we're not going to
what's
get a
wrong
second
with
round
you,
of questions, I ask for your indulgence to be able to get through them yes or no. In New Mexico, as you know, Medicaid is often measured state by state. It might surprise you if you look at some of those surveys. In New Mexico, the response was 90% of New Mexicans on Medicaid report satisfaction getting care, 80% getting specialist care, 85% getting urgent care, 95% ease of filings out of focus. Not to pick on any one of my colleagues, but in Louisiana, 86% of people on Medicaid are satisfied with their interactions. 83% are satisfied getting care. 85% are satisfied getting specialized care. 82% getting urgent care. I can go on state by state, but we don't have the time today. Yes or no, do you support cutting Medicaid or reducing, and especially in an area where you and I spoke about with the federal investment in Medicaid, which is known as FMAP? I'm going to call it a restroom break.
President Trump has not told me to that he wants to cut Medicaid. He's told me to make it better.
Do you support cutting, yes or no? Let me ask you this way, since it's only about
I
President
support
Trump.
making it better, Senator.
If President Trump asks you to cut Medicaid, will you do it?
Oh, it's not up to me to cut Medicaid. It would be up to Congress. Oh, and
You don't
I'm
want to
going to
answer?
work. I'm
Sir,
going to work.
Mr. Kennedy, you don't want to answer? I'll move on. Do you?
That's not the answer. Let take a look at it this way. This idea of, do you favor any, would you cut this? Would you cut that? If I cut it, would it make it better? What if I could show you if I cut it, it'll make it better? Isn't that worth cutting? No, what he wants is the soundbite of saying, I'm going to cut Medicare, so Democrats can say, see, Republicans are going to cut Medicare. And then someone's going to say, you know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not a Republican. And then they're going to be told, you just shut your face right there. That's how that one's going to go down. These people are ridiculous. Ridiculous. They deserve all of your disrespect.
Well, there's 40 states that have signed on to the expansion. So,
It's a smaller number. So it's 9 states would quickly have to end their expansion because of the laws that they have. That's about 4 million folks across the country. And in New Mexico, Iowa, and Idaho, they have triggers that it would immediately have to go into effect if, in fact, that gets cut. The reason I'm asking those questions is there's been a lot of chatter and conversations around Medicaid. Now, I agree we can always do better, and we must be doing better in America. But Medicaid has been shown to improve health outcomes, including mortality, quality of life, and access to preventative care as well. And there's some areas, Mr. Kennedy, that you and I touched on specific to Native American communities. One of the concerns that I have.
That's Senator Lujan of New Mexico asking the questions. It was weird in the break there. He's asking, well, would you cut Medicare? And his point is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's being, this confirmation hearing to be Secretary of Health and Human Services. Well, that's not for me to do. That's Congress to do. Would you make any cuts? Well, I'm not asked to make cuts. I've been asked to make Medicare better. And it's obvious that what it is that the senator wants is to hear RFK say, I would make cuts so they can scream, Donald Trump is going to cut Medicare. Republicans are going to cut Medicare. And then, of course, someone responded that RFK Jr. is not a Republican. And then it's all off the rails from there. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything going on over at TonyKatz.com. Just that easy to be a part of it. I've got more from this hearing, and I've so much to share with you from this hearing, including the back and forth with Elizabeth Warren, the how Michael Bennet, the senator from Colorado, I think hurt him, and the nonsense from Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. But there is a screed that Sheldon Whitehouse went on, who I think is a terrible guy. I think Sheldon Whitehouse is awful. The senator Democrat from Rhode Island. Oh, terrible. But he goes on a 5-minute bender. He's like, I'm not asking any questions. Just shut up and take it. I swear to you, that's how he starts. It's crazed. And then he goes into a 5-minute screed about the healthcare system. And you're like, did I just agree with Sheldon Whitehouse? Like, you hear him talk about it. You're like, whoa, that's something my friends would have said. That's something my cousin would have said. That's something my mother did say. That's something I've said. So now you're like, wait, whoa. What are we actually agreeing on? And one of the strange things about this hearing is that you get the idea that everybody gets that the system, wait for it, sucks. They know this. Yet somehow in the political left, the answer is, well, what we should do to fix it is more of this. You hear them and you're like, wait a second, I understand what you're saying. I can find myself following that and agreeing with that and empathizing with that and to an extent sympathizing with that. And my gosh, how terrible and how all of these things. You're like, maybe we get along. Maybe we all like each other. But they don't have a solution other than more of the same. Government run, more money. Never the change of the system, just an inclusion of more dollars. I will get more into that. But I was saying that the deportations that we have been seeing, the deportations matter. And I saw that Chad Wolf, former acting Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security under Trump's first term, he was there on doing something with Politico, and he was discussing just this.
Education campaign, because I think there are some on the left and others that want people to think that the only individuals coming into the country are women and children. And if you take enforcement action against them, then somehow you're cruel and unusual. And I think what the White House and others are trying to do is there's actually some very bad individuals in the United States that have come in, whether it's the last 4 years or whenever, that are in your communities. They are sex offenders. They are convicted criminals. They picked up someone on the terror watch list as well in the last week or so. There are bad individuals. So I think part of this is educating the American people that it's not, the sympathetic, what you see, women and children, although there are those that cross that border without a doubt. But a lot of these children fall between 15 and 17, right? And in South America, Central America, that is military age, that is recruitment for gangs, and a lot of them come over that way. And so I think part of it is educating the American people about what's going on, who are they picking up? And so you get images like we saw at the White House press briefing where they have the dossier of who that individual is, trying to let you know that this is about protecting communities.
Part of the way that happens is by ensuring that less people enter the country or attempt to enter the country illegally. You get more opportunity to have less people when you are proactive from the beginning and you set the standard. That's why these first days have been so incredibly important and have been so, for the political left, shocking to the system. There's nothing that Trump has done, that this team has done, that wasn't telegraphed, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and wasn't voted for by the American people. In every way, this is what Americans wanted. Those who voted for Trump, the vast majority of Americans, or I should at least say the majority of Americans, this is exactly what they wanted and what they expected, what they demanded, and they're thrilled that they're seeing it. They just want to see it continue. In neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, people are saying, hot damn, look at this. I guess we can do this. I guess we can just get people who are breaking the law. I guess we can arrest them. I guess we can send them back. I guess we can be proactive. So why weren't we? All politics, all policy comes down to the concept of will. Does one have the will to go about doing the thing that must be done? You can discuss a policy, and certainly you can get people to vote for you by lying about that discussion of a policy. I mean, that happens all the time. How many ways do you see people lying about a policy? Lying about how they're going to do this and how they're going to do that. Isn't that the thing that we allegedly hate about politicos? But we really hate it about the other guy. We seem to love our guys, and that's always super weird. You can tell people you're going to do anything. You can tell people you're going to do anything. It is the actual doing that matters. And what Trump is doing is it. So everything that the Biden administration said about you can't do this, you can't do that, or we're not going to do this, or we're trying to do that, or we're doing this, or we're building that, was a lie. Every time Alejandro Mayorkas, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, opened his despicable fraud mouth, oh, I don't like that guy at all, at all. He was lying. We're rebuilding a broken system. And then at the very, very end, when all is lost and there's nothing else going on and nothing else to talk about, and he knows his days are numbered, only then does he start talking about the fact that, well, you know, we saw things differently.
Mr. Secretary, do you not, I mean, put the politics of the election aside if you want. Do you not look at the immigration issue in this country and what has transpired over the last 4 years, given the number of people coming into this country illegally, given the firestorm that this has created, the national dialogue about it, given some of the efforts, frankly, by the administration, especially early on, to be more lenient than they had been? Do you think none of those things, if you could go back, you would do differently?
Look, Andrew, yes, and you have to understand something, and this is not specific to government, but to any large organization, including a government administration. People have different views on what the correct policies should be, what the correct operational measures should be. Those disagreements, those different views are voiced, decisions are made, and then everyone marches in unity together. That is.
You're the Secretary of Homeland Security. So it was you or the president who disagreed with you? Or did you disagree with the president? Did the president want to throw these people out? And you're like, well, no, ideologically, I don't want to do that. Or did you want to throw them out and the president was like, no, ideologically, I don't want to do that? Which one of you? And if it wasn't the two of you, the president of the United States and the Secretary of Homeland Security, who else was in that conversation? Who else was running the show? Or not even who else? Who was running the show? If it wasn't the secretary and it wasn't the president. Curious as to what that is. Who that was. No respect for Alejandro Mayorkas whatsoever. He absolutely should have been tried for the impeachment, and despicable Chuck Schumer not even having the hearing. That's going to come back to haunt. That is going to come back to haunt Senate Democrats just like Harry Reid and the filibuster. You are going to regret this. The day will come, and I only hope the day that Chuck Schumer regrets it comes right soon. A most regrettable figure in American history is Chuck Schumer. But it shows us that when you have the willpower, you can do anything. When you have the willingness, and you're not worried about what Joy Reid is going to say about you on MSNBC, that non-network, screw them. Nicole Wallace isn't happy. No one cares. You're Nicole Wallace. Your commentary doesn't mean anything to us at all. What we care about, what people care about, was actually doing something about the border. That's what they cared about. They cared about getting people in the country illegally out, getting gang members out, getting lawbreakers of all stripes out. This is what Americans cared about. This is what they voted on because they believed it could be done if you just put in the people who have the will. And now they're seeing it. So this quick result creates, as the former Secretary Chad Wolf was stating, it creates expectation. And now you've got to match that. This is what people want. And this is what sends the message to other nations saying, oh, I guess the inn is closed. Maybe this is why cartels are now firing at Border Patrol, because that's what we're seeing. It was reported, but it seems to have fallen off the pages very quick that cartels fired at U.S. Border Patrol agents. This took place on Monday. I have a theory here that I don't know if other people have. I believe that AMLO, the former president of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, AMLO, was no friend of the United States. And what he allowed to flow through Mexico into the U.S., I state, is an act of war. Others don't want to state that. They don't want to believe that. I don't know what they would call it. But then again, some of these people are people who don't believe in borders anyway. So you can't blame them. They're ignorant fools, and they should never be near power. For the rest of us who know that people get killed, that property gets destroyed, that children and women are raped and others are tortured, this is something that has to end. Yet Mexico does not end it, and they allow it. These caravans are allowed to move through with impunity. They allow it. I want to know why Mexico is a friend. And I want to know why Mexico is treated like a friend. I want to know why it is that we have to look at Mexico and say, hey, buddy, how you doing? Look great today. Did you bring some of your wife's fantastic pecan cobbler? I have no idea if there's a pecan cobbler, but I was gonna say like a quesadilla, and then people would be like racist. I was gonna be like, oh dear Lord, I was talking about Mexico, so I went with pecan cobbler. Not the point. I don't want to treat Mexico like that. Mexico's not a good friend. Mexico's not a good neighbor. Mexico has been harming us. Mexico has been hurting us. Mexico has not taken care of their cartel problem and has allowed the cartels to grow and thrive where they're in the United States. They are in many ways in control, operational control of areas of the border. And if they're going to lose out on money through their human trafficking efforts, which are ever growing, now they're going to try and take it out on Border Patrol to get them to stop. So they're firing at them. If it's not an act of war, I don't know what is. And maybe we should address it as such. Maybe the new president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, needs to understand that that's how we take it. We see it as an act of war, and we will respond in kind. Well, Tony, you need a president and an administration with the willpower to do that. Not going to be surprised if strong words come next. Strong words and then some level of action. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today is the name of the radio show, and then we live stream it here. Yeah, I was turning down the lights a little bit. It just looked a little harsh. I don't know why. Why that is. Is it a sinus issue, Freddie? I don't know. I think it's allergies. I was also wondering if it's the studio, right? I smoke in the studio and we clean it every night, but maybe we because of the cold weather, we haven't been airing it out like we usually do, and that could have something to do with it. So maybe that's it. But I'll see. I'll see how it works out. So RFK is done for now. No, they took a little break. They're back. It's now questions from Raphael Warnock going on there. So let me see if I can pull that up. There it is. There's that. No. Let me bring that back here. And then I can show you that right there. That's Raphael Warnock right there.
Well, actually, I have a transcript.
Senator from Georgia.
He said it's a Nazi death camp.
Let me read your words. It says that the institution, CDC, and the vaccine program, is your description of their work, is more important than the children that it's supposed to protect. And it's the same reason we had a pedophile scandal in the Catholic Church, just because people were able to convince themselves that the institution of the church was more important than these little boys and girls who were being raped. That's pretty provocative language. You said in another statement to me, this is like Nazi death camp. I mean, let me finish. I'm just reading your words. I mean, what happened to these kids? 1 in 31 boys in this country, their minds are being robbed from them.
Yeah, I was not comparing the CDC to Nazi death camps. I was comparing the injury rate to our children to other atrocities.
That's Robert Kennedy Jr. there. The hearing continues. I have got the greatest hits from it. I will share that with you. And how is it possible that Sean Duffy was not confirmed by as many senators as Pete Buttigieg? That's up next. I'm Tony Katz. So here's what we got going on. We've got the radio show going on. We've got I'm going to leave this up, and I'm going to let you hear it. I'm going to let it play. I'm going to come back to the show, and then we'll break it down from there. Right? Got them, smoke them, guys. And you can find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com, Twitix Tony Katz, Facebook Tony Katz Radio, YouTube, and Rumble Tony Katz. That's it.
Self-interest and pharmaceutical profits ahead of the welfare and health of American children. So that was a conclusion by Congress. And I repeated that.
I'm asking you because you're the nominee for HHS. It sounds like you stand by those statements.
Senator, my objective is to support the CDC. There's nothing I'm going to do that is going to harm CDC. I want to make sure that our science is gold standard science, so that it's free from that same government oversight investigation committee that the panels, the ACIP panel, and within CDC, I think 97% of the people on it had conflicts. I don't believe that that's right. I think we need to end those conflicts and make sure that scientists are doing unobstructed science.
So I want to enter this statement, by the way, into the record without objection.
Without objection.
Last week, the White House gagged HHS and the CDC, preventing them from communicating all important public health information to anyone, including all of our allies, including our allies in the United States and global disease prevention. Can you just answer yes or no, because I'm running out of time? Do you agree with that action?
I was not consulted on it, but that's pretty much standard operating procedure for incoming administration.
So you agree with the action that gagged HHS and CDC from communicating important public health information?
That directive made sure that no public health and only non-essential travel and mass communications were temporarily suspended pending the confirmation of a new HHS secretary. This is standard operating procedure for every administration.
I get it. I don't think what we've seen over the last several days is standard operation for new administration. I think we're seeing some unprecedented actions, but you agree with it. Last night, members of the CDC, along with other federal employees, were actually invited to resign, these buyouts. And I got text messages and folks I know work from the CDC, for the CDC, that do this important work, who got that note. And it's really important because my experience is that when you send out that kind of note, the folks who resign are the folks who you least likely want to see resign. They got other options. They're gifted folks. They got a lot of expertise. They have options. A lot of them are doing this work because of their patriotism, because of their commitment. Do you agree with the buyouts that were presented to CDC employees just last night?
I agree. At the vast majority of the scientists and experts at CDC are patriots and good government servants.
Can you tell me yes
I don't
or
think
no?
anybody's going to resign who's committed to making America healthy.
Can you just answer yes? Okay, you agree with the buyouts. In our meeting, I asked you to confirm your support for the Affordable Care Act. You also mentioned that you and President Trump want to fix the ACA by making premiums more affordable. Can you answer me yes or no, as I don't have a lot of time? Did you know that tax credits that help families afford health insurance and save Georgians an average of $531 per month per person are set to expire at the end of the year? Did you know that?
I do.
We need to move on.
Do you support Congress extending these tax credits so that Americans can continue to afford health care?
Congress has to make its own decisions about that. My instructions from
Mr.
President
Chairman,
Trump
you're saying I'm running
is
out
to
of time,
make
but I'm having a lot of trouble getting the witness to answer yes or no to a yes or no question. And
Well,
I've got one more question.
you're almost at 9 minutes. Sir.
Well, I need him to answer yes or no. Yes or no? Do you
I'm not going to
support?
answer yes or no to a question that's not susceptible to an honest yes or no answer.
Okay, I can't
We
get an
need to
answer.
move on.
I think that the fact that you find it difficult to answer basic questions is deeply troubling for me as you present yourself as a nominee to run HHS. Thank you so very much.
Senator Smith.
I've been in courts all over the country and prosecutors.
Mr. Chairman, you told me I'm out of time and the witness continues to filibuster even after I said I'm done.
Senator Smith.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member, and welcome, Mr. Kennedy. So, Mr. Kennedy, I don't have a question for you on abortion. I think that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle have covered this, but I want to say I can respect people who have different views than mine on this issue, but it's hard for me to respect people who won't give a straight answer to what they think on this issue in particular. Mr. Chair, I just want to note that I understand that anti-choice advocates have said that in these hearings, they were looking to hear Mr. Kennedy provide some reassurance that he is on their side, and I'm not hearing that. And I think most Americans are looking for some hint that the decisions that people make about abortion should be personal and private, and they should be free to make those decisions without government interference. And I'm not hearing that either. To make it worse, the answers that you have given tell me that the Trump administration is more than willing to restrict or even ban medication abortion without a single act of Congress, and even in states where abortion is legal. And what is clear to me is that you and President Trump are dangerous to women's access to mifepristone. So having said that, I want to move to a different topic. Mr. Kennedy, I appreciate Senator Cornyn's questions about mental and behavioral health, something that I care a lot about. I know that you and your family have had personal experience with mental health challenges, as have I. And I agree that the mental health crisis in this country is a crisis. So let me ask you, in an interview in 2023 and again in 2024, you blamed school shootings on antidepressants. You said, and this is a quote, "There is no time in American history or human history that kids were going to shoot schools and shooting their classmates. It really started happening coterminous with the introduction of these drugs, with Prozac and with other drugs." So do you believe, as you've said, that antidepressants cause school shootings? This should be a simple question.
I don't think anybody can answer that question, and I didn't answer that question. I said it
So
should
your
be
answer
studied.
is
I said it should be studied along with other potential culprits
So
like
they may cause.
social media. But I don't know. I would never make, because there's no science on that,
Well,
Senator.
there is, Senator, there is, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you for the promotion.
The science shows that there is no link between school shootings and antidepressants. And in fact, most school shooters were not even treated with antidepressants. And of those that were, there was no evidence of association. You know,
I don't think you
my
can say
question
that,
is,
Senator, because of HIPAA rules, nobody knows.
well, that is, Mr. Kennedy, do you think?
She's certifiable. Tina Smith of Minnesota, of course. The studies show there's no connection. Listen, a study is not the study. There's no such thing as the study that says there are no other studies. I'm old enough to remember when coffee was bad for you until coffee was good for you, when eggs were bad for you until eggs were great for you. Things do change as you get more data. You telling me we've done enough studies to be able to make the decision? And by the way, I'm not blaming antidepressants for school shootings. I'm only stating that the argument being made by the Democratic senator here, Tina Smith, is nutty. Absolutely surreal. And I just got back. I took a quick break. Got back to the chair, and she's just being a silly child, which is what Tina Smith does. It's Minnesota. They don't elect the best.
It's the withdrawal period is, I mean, and it's written on the label.
I have some
This is
experience
very
with
well
this
documented.
myself, Mr. Kennedy. This is personal for me. When I was a young woman and I was struggling with depression, thankfully, I had the resources to help me get through it, including a new generation of SSRI uptake inhibitors, which helped to clear my mind, get me back on track to being a mom and a wife and a productive, happy person. And I'm really grateful for that therapy. So I have some experience with this, and I think that everyone should have access to that care. And your job as secretary is to expand access to care, not to spread lies and misinformation. And you know, the things that you say, Mr. Kennedy, they live on. They have impact. And you know, we're having this conversation at the same moment that my Republican colleagues are looking to try to figure out how to save money any way they can. And so they want to cut Medicaid. Let's just think.
That's not. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to do it. Just another liar. Just another fraud. My name is Tony Katz. If you don't know, the show is called Tony Katz Today. That's the radio show where we're heard as we're growing on stages all across the country. We're coming back to that right now, so we will join them and we will get on with the show. I'm glad you're here. Don't forget to follow and subscribe in all the places one can follow and subscribe.
That people who experience mental health every day face every single day. And I'm very concerned that this is another example of your record of sharing false and misleading information that actually really hurts people.
Senator, you're
Thank you, Mr.
mischaracterizing my statements.
I am only putting into the record what you have said, Mr.
You're
Kennedy.
mischaracterizing my statements, and I'm happy that you had a good experience on SSRIs. Many Americans have very good experience on it. Others have
That
not.
would be an issue between them and their physicians, and not for
And
the
exactly.
future head of HHS to be just putting out misinformation
Exactly.
about the dangers of SSRIs and other antidepressant medication, spreading the stigma and the fear that we're actually trying to overcome.
Do you think physicians, when they make that prescription, ought to have access to good science?
Of course they do. And I
That's
don't
all I
think that,
believe too. Then you and I are in agreement, Senator.
and to your point that you made when you made these statements, it was not based on good science. I don't know what it was
I
based
was saying
on.
the science needed to be done. I was saying these are potential culprits. We're coterminous, and I named other things. I said video games. I said social media. I said SSRIs. SSRIs have a black box warning of suicidal,
Mr.
homicidal
Chair,
behavior.
Mr. Chair, I will submit to the chair the information that I have about what Mr. Kennedy has said of linking antidepressants to school shootings. Thank you.
That is Senator Tina
Senator
Smith. And Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota, I swear to you, could get me to vote for RFK. Just out of her mind. Tony Katz, Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. It is, of course, the confirmation hearing of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They took the quick break. Now they're at Senator Todd Young of Indiana.
I'm going to give you an opportunity, uninterrupted, but hopefully not too extensive, to tell me and others what you mean by this gold standard.
The gold standard means real scientific research with replication of studies, which very rarely happens now at NIH. We should be giving at least 20% of the NIH budgets to replication. We should make sure that all the science is published with the raw data. We should make sure that the peer reviews are also published. And I'll give you a quick example. 20 years ago, NIH scientists did a study on Alzheimer's, which they said it was caused by amyloid plaque. After that, NIH shut down studies of any other hypothesis. 20 years later, we now know that those studies were fraudulent. NIH has funded 800 studies on a fraudulent hypothesis, and we've lost 20 years in figuring out how to a cure for Alzheimer's. And that's just one example. I could give you hundreds. We need to end that. We need to end the old boy system. We need to have replicatable science and be completely transparent about raw data.
Now, it's the first time I've heard RFK in answering some of these questions hit to a subject that people could be like, well, yeah, if we need a better system and a cleaner system and a system that doesn't allow for bad ideas to be multiplied on, well, then yes, right? That seems to be about a paperwork issue, about a bureaucracy issue. Where RFK has taken his hits is based on his own history, where I give him the hits. Being a guy who believed that if you didn't believe in global warming, you should go to jail. His radical takes on abortion. And I have been in the room where he talks about taxation and wealth redistribution. He's not my guy. That doesn't mean he doesn't make sense from time to time. It doesn't mean that he can't be a valuable asset and advocate, which is where I would have put him, not in the place of being an actual cabinet secretary. But I want to go back to what it is Tina Smith was saying. Because, dear Lord, that was some despicable stuff. The senator from Minnesota is, I will utilize the terminology, she is not bright. She's not. But if she wants to talk about her own issues with depression and taking certain drugs that allowed her to build a good life and a happy life and a family and everything else, I'm not going to tell her no. What Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was saying is that, look, I think that's great, but we should also be clear that it doesn't work like this for everybody. Your argument, Senator Kennedy, is that nobody should say anything bad about these drugs. I think the rational take, this is what Robert F. Kennedy is saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that we should be honest about everything that these drugs can do, and people need to be aware. Do I have an issue with awareness? No. I almost think it cliche now. This conversation about depression and to an extent mental illness. We hear this so often. The mental illness problem in America. In conversations I've had with my brother, the good Dr. Katz. It's more of a sociological coming to a conclusion rather than a medical one, I would say. What we see in America is not actually an issue with mental illness. It is not something that I think would be a psychiatrist would be engaged in diagnosing. But a great amount of what we see is anxiety driven. Anxiety in America, which gets increased, exacerbated, exploited, monetized, creates a fair amount of our issues. And I think that I should take the time and break down where I think this occurs. I most often discuss this in the vein of what happens at airports, how the TSA, the Transportation Safety Administration, treats American citizens, how it is that these airlines act and treat their passengers who they quite obviously and quite clearly, based on actions, could not care anything about. And you see, between the generalized anxiety in America, the increased anxiety of getting on an airplane, plus what is now raised to a point of adversarial between the client, the American citizen, and the TSA, and between the client and the airlines. I am surprised only that we don't see more insanity on airline flights. Stunned. And I've never been on a flight where that's been an issue. Oh, no, I take that back once. And I'm not talking about the super obese guy who once sat next to me and forced my wife to take another seat. No. I was discussing that yesterday. But rather, one guy, I was sitting, I don't know, was I I don't think it was a plane that did first class, but I was up towards the front. I'm a first class guy. I'm a first class guy and I fly first class. It's a double whammy. And I'm sitting there and I don't know, the guy like 2 rows behind me isn't moving something, and the flight attendant's like, we got to put that there. No, you got to put it over here. No, you can't leave it where you are, and you can't leave it there. And the guy, like, I don't know, bothered, annoyed, wanted to be special. He was like, oh yeah, I've got a bomb in here. You schmuck. Did you actually say that? And the flight attendant, like in a second, was like, all right, I have to get the captain. You're done here. Got the captain. Police came on board. The guy got escorted off. You can't joke about these things. I don't know if you have kids, but when flying with my children, immediately when we started flying, you do not joke about any of this stuff. You do not make any jokes whatsoever. If you make a joke, expect that you're not going to be allowed to fly. That means daddy's not going to be allowed to fly. That means you're going to have a problem. Who hasn't taught their kids? Don't joke about those things. Don't do that. Ridiculous. So, and it's the only time I've ever had one of these weird things, but these fights, these screamings, everything, total anxiety. Add to that a culture that says you're special and you're wonderful and you deserve all these things. You can demand all these things and nobody can tell you no. And so the mental illness issue, I think, is all connected to that. These things that we see culturally, where people are not given the standard guardrails of a society and told you're allowed to have feelings, you don't have to share them. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't share them. No, you're not allowed to take your feelings out on somebody else. And it's become a society of your feelings are the only things that matter. And anybody who tells you you can't have your feelings, well, that's the enemy and they're oppressing you and all this kind of stuff. I am not trying to diminish depression, having gone through this myself, having been through this myself, having been suicidal myself in my 20s, an entire, outside of getting married, which why she did it is still beyond me, a wasted 10 years. Wasted. I got nothing accomplished. I got nothing done. Found this woman. And you know what? Maybe that's enough success. But imagine what I could have done if I wasn't such a mess. Like I have a few months of my life I don't remember. I have no idea what I did every day. I've discussed this before. When I tell you, I have no idea what I did every single day. None. Zero. When I thought about ending it, never got too graphic. So I wonder sometimes if a professional would think that maybe I wasn't actually serious about it. But rather it was always about how could I do it in a way that when my wife came home, she wouldn't just walk in on me there. It was always home based. Like it was never about go out into the woods. It was never about doing something in your car. I lived right near the ocean. I lived in New Jersey in a place called Bradley Beach. We were a block from the Atlantic. You saw it from our balcony. We lived on the second floor of this house. And it was very cool, and somehow just never thought about that. That never came to mind. So I think the professional may be like, well, maybe you weren't suicidal, maybe it was something else. I took no drugs. I think for like a month I took something called St. John's wort. I remember that, and I saw somebody twice. Saw them the first time. It was a guy. Licensed, whatever, and I thought it was pretty good. I left there like, all right, I'm not crazy, but so this is actually happening. I went back the second time. I've told this story before. If I have, I apologize. And the guy was like, yeah, why are you even here? Oh, I guess I'm cured. I was not. That is the lesson there. Oh, I should have kept going to engage some level of therapy. It took a while to start feeling good. I guess what I learned from that moment is that I could actually be somebody who overcomes it. So I never took a drug. I never took a pill. I never took a shot. None of that. Other people did. And I'm not going to tell them not to. Not at all. But the idea that somehow, hey, you're taking a pill that's going to help you with your depression. You should know here are some side effects and here is some possible connectivity based on data. Or here's what I have seen about these actions and what it is they've taken medically. And there's something that's going on here, and you should just be aware of that. We should really study this. That's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is discussing there with Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota. And Senator Tina Smith, to that very logical statement, is saying, how dare you? Because I once took these medications, or maybe she still does for all I know. You're not allowed to say anything. That isn't the way it works. I'm a no vote on Robert F. Kennedy, and these people are trying to make me vote yes because they are so absolutely dastardly that they won't engage honestly. They rather engage in a radicalness. No one should say that you shouldn't be able to take X, Y, or Z that has shown itself in cases to work for patients regarding depression. But to say you also shouldn't know the side effects, you shouldn't know that, hey, we haven't done a study here, but we've seen people on this, and then we've seen them do this, and you should know that we shouldn't discuss that because it's going to keep people from getting the help they need. That's crazy. This goes back to Barack Obama, who said that the problem with the society is that we have too much information. No. The problem with every society is a society where they don't have enough information because the information is kept from them. We were worse off because they told us that COVID absolutely didn't leak from the lab in Wuhan. And we were worse off when we weren't allowed to question masks or vaccines or anything else. We were all worse off, and here we are right now living it. More communication, more discussion, more honesty, more openness. Always, always, always better. I walked into this hearing, I'm a no on RFK, and these progressives are so absolutely daft and unbelievably horrific. My God, they're going to turn me around, aren't they? By the way, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 988. If you need it, you should use it. I never made that call, but you should never, ever keep yourself from making that call if you feel you need it. Do the thing. I'm Tony Katz. You know the whole line about how Trump has broken people. They're just totally broken. They are. When I see people telling me I call Bernie Sanders a communist because he is. No, Bernie Sanders is just a socialist. Donald Trump is a communist. So Bernie Sanders aspires to be Donald Trump. Every socialist is nothing more than a communist seed. Socialists are nothing more than commie veal. But then again, like commies ever get to dine on veal. Well, the people at the very top do. Everybody else starves and dies. That's usually how it goes. Tony Katz, good to be with you. I think it's allergies is what it is. They had gone away and then they came back. I don't know. It's dust. It's Lord only knows. I have got some of the hearing I want to share with you. You have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now dealing with the questioning or the statements from Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island.
What you're dealing with is a tragedy that is happening to a family who wanted that child and have suddenly been confronted with a moment in which they have to make what is probably going to be the worst decision of their lives. And to try to shove the state legislature into that room is really offensive, really morally wrong. And I just want to make very clear what Rhode Island OBGYNs tell me is the situation when these procedures have to be deployed.
Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Kennedy,
I will admit to you that I think it's interesting that he's upset if a doctor has to be involved regarding a woman's abortion or a state gets involved with a doctor and a woman in abortion, but not when it comes to you getting a COVID vaccine or being able to go to a movie theater without having your papers in order. Bring the show in. Sean Duffy, now your transportation secretary. And I found it fascinating that Duffy got confirmed by a 77-22 vote. That's pretty good. This Senate gave Sean Duffy, the former congressman from Wisconsin, the former road rule star on MTV, former Fox host, and they gave him a 77? Solid. 77 votes. I'm Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? What I could not get my head around is that Pete Buttigieg got confirmed 86-13. Same role, transportation secretary. How is it possible that Pete Buttigieg got more votes than Sean Duffy? Nine more. Yeah, 9 more votes. How? I want the Republican Party to look at that. On what planet was Pete Buttigieg more qualified to run the Department of Transportation than the former congressman, Sean Duffy? What planet? I didn't say he was more qualified, although I don't know his situation regarding committees when he was in the House. So could we argue that his time in Congress is equivalent to Pete Buttigieg's time as mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and so they should have gotten an equal amount of votes? No, he gets less. This is a lesson, I think, for the Republican Party. And I believe that the lesson is that you should not be so giving of your vote to a party that is more and more willing to have no votes for no reason. To the extent that Sean Duffy is in any way qualified to be the Secretary of Transportation, I have no idea. But there was nothing that disqualified him, so I also would have voted for his confirmation. That's the way I feel like Pete Hegseth. I have no idea if Pete can actually do the job, and I'm not saying anything nasty. I want him to be successful. But I would have nothing. There's absolutely nothing that would disqualify him from doing the job. There's no part of his military history. There is no part of his professional history that says he can't do this. By the way, I think that Tulsi Gabbard is going to get confirmed as well. And I do think it's going to be 50-50 with the J.D. Vance tiebreaker. Is that the way RFK is going to go? Let's start hearing what they said to him and how it went. That's coming up next. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Good to be with you, Tony Katz. Today, that is the name of the show. Tucker's podcast with the attorney that only handles vaccine cases. I did not hear that one. And by the way, Tucker can have all of the podcasts he wants. He can engage whatever conversation he wants. Agree, disagree. It's fine. There's this weird thing, like you can't disagree. What do you mean you can't disagree? Oh, you can't disagree because if you disagree, you're not really a conservative. That's not the way any of this works. That's just silly. I maybe I caught it wrong. I haven't heard it yet. Was Tucker saying that Barry Weiss is not a conservative? Because yeah, she's a liberal. Barry Weiss has never been a conservative. So like it's one of those kinds of things that, you know, you address the situation as it is. There's no need for any other level of histrionics. I am not anti-vaccine by any stretch of the imagination. I'm certainly in favor of things being tested before you put them out there into the world. And I'm certainly okay with people saying, I'm not going to do the thing. I forget who it was, who was saying, will you force people to take vaccines? Because they don't know any better, and we have to make sure that they do this. I don't think I want to force people. I think I want to show them. Don't you? We'll show you that it works. Isn't that better? It seems to me that's better. That would make more sense. You don't have to force anybody to do anything. Here, take a look at this. This is way better. You take this, you do this, and the next thing you know, your kids don't have this issue or you don't have that issue. I think that's the way to do it. I also believe in herd mentality. I believe in herd vaccination. I think the science on that works. But anyway, let's get into what it is that got said by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and by the crazy people asking him questions. We're coming back to the radio show. I'm Tony Katz. Good to be with you.
Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma, ADHD, depression, addiction, and a host of other physical and mental health conditions are all on the rise, some of them exponentially. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation, yet we spend more on healthcare, at least double, and in some cases triple, as other countries.
Are we questioning this? None of this makes me say, well, this is why we need single payer. None of this makes me say, this is why we need universal health care. No. But I think it's fine to ask the questions, why is this the case? And which leads us to these good conversations that Robert Kennedy has been having about what it is that we eat and drink, what it is that we ingest. What do we actually put into our bodies? Fine conversations, worthy conversations, conversations we should have more of. I'm all in favor of. One of the clashes, they'll always discuss it as a clash, right, was when Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, you know her, the one who lies about being Native American and lies about, I forget what the other lie was about. Oh, that's right. That she believes in capitalism. That was it. She's asking the questions here.
So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah,
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
Is there something I missed about the 4 years after rule? Now, I will tell you that as a matter of a concept, maybe there should be some more codifying to the idea that after you leave public service, you're not allowed to profit off of it right away in some of these instances. But not before we eliminate the ability to do insider trading by members of Congress. That comes first. But why 4 years? It's an arbitrary number. 4 years, and RFK is like, you're being weird. And Elizabeth Warren is like, yeah, I am weird.
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
no,
and I'm not going to agree to that.
Drug companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well,
any member of Congress can influence a whole host of things. So is this litany that Elizabeth Warren is about to get into, is this a legitimate list?
Let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel. who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits, so that what you do as secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it.
It seems to me that this is an argument for getting rid of the Secretary of Health and Human Services because they have way too much power. Also, when Elizabeth Warren gets all like shrill screamy, it's not good. If you ever need something in your head to help you delay, it's Elizabeth Warren screaming. The way she makes it sound, we should never have anybody in charge of Health and Human Services. My gosh, look what they can do. Way too much power. Way too much being offered to this secretary here. We should reduce those powers immediately. Somebody asked me, Tony, what do you mean by insider trading? I mean that members of Congress can use information they get inside the halls of Congress from testimony, public or private, information that comes across their desk that could be insider trading about possible trade deals or other regulations, other things going on with other nations or our nation, and they're allowed to make stock trades based on that information, and that's not illegal. And if we traded on insider information, we would look very good in white and black striped jumpsuits. That's what I'm talking about insider trading. So that's just Elizabeth Warren. That was her entire madness, her screed. Now, there were some moments of actual conversation like this from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where he got to ask a question about Medicare or make a statement regarding Medicare and Medicaid spending.
In answer to your first question, there are all kinds of exciting things that we can be doing, including cooperatives, which President Trump has supported, including health savings accounts, which President Trump has supported. But all of these things to make people more accountable for their own health.
And so it would bring the cooperatives and the health savings accounts into Medicare and Medicaid?
Exactly. We try to increase those, the use of those, and to direct primary care to continue to transition into a value-based program that is private. Americans don't, by and large, do not like the Affordable Care Act. People are on it. They don't like Medicaid. They like Medicare. And they like private insurance. We need to listen to what they would prefer to be on private insurance. Most Americans, if they can afford to be, will be on private insurance. We need to figure out ways to improve care, particularly for elderly, for veterans, for the poor in this country. And Medicaid, the current model is not doing that. I would ask, any of the Democrats who are chuckling just now, do you think all that money, the $900 billion that we're sending to Medicaid every year, has made Americans healthy? Do we think it's working for anybody? Are the premiums low enough?
We do need to move on.
Some people in the gallery there cheering a lot of the Make America Healthy Again moms, Maha, like MAGA, but Maha, were there cheering for him. It's a good question. All this money, are we healthier? And then what the left comes back with is it's super effective, and here are the people, and here's the percentage of Americans using it. Does it make them healthier was the question here. And I think that's a fine, good, valuable question. But it was one of the few moments that that he got to basically give an idea, to put something out there. In many ways, he was not great in this hearing. And when you hear how Michael Bennett handled things, son from Colorado, I think it did not go great for RFK. The saving grace for him is that the left is ridiculous. Elizabeth Warren, Mark Warner, Bernie Sanders. Did you approve this onesie? That's not a bad Bernie Sanders. That's not bad. That kind of stuff. Oh, the onesie thing. Do you not know the onesie thing? So Bernie is noting that on some website that from an organization that he had founded, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had founded, they're selling a onesie that's like no vax for me or something like that. And Bernie just loses his dang mind.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I will. I want good science, and I want to protect.
But you will not tell.
Are you supportive of these onesies? Was not the terminology that is not the phrase that I thought we'd hear in the Senate. Are you supportive of these? Depends. That I would have expected. So I've got more from the hearing and another executive action from Donald Trump, and I will cheer it from here until the end of time. The fact that you needed it, that's what's gross. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So amongst the executive orders pushed by President Trump, none more important than defunding youth gender affirming care. Tony Katz today, it was the idea of gender affirming care should make one sick. This was gross wordplay, gross manipulation. This was about abusing children. That's what it was about. Every last bit of it. When we see the numbers of children involved with gender dysphoria, my, oh my. No part of this is real. This isn't normal. This is contagion. This is about pressure. This is about, well, it makes you cool or it makes you special. And then people have to talk about you and you have all this power. No part of this is real. But anybody who thinks that a 14-year-old could decide to mutilate themselves, that's a person who needs to be removed from civil society. I don't care if you're the parent. 14-year-olds can't make certain decisions. As a society, we have to say no. I believe in the rights of parents when it comes to education. I believe in the rights of parents when it comes to deciding schools, of course, when it comes to deciding vaccines. I don't believe parents get to abuse their kids. Now, some parents may be more strict than others. That's different. But you don't get to mutilate your child. You don't get to push them into puberty blockers and chemical castration and all the rest. So this executive order defunds anything from the federal government towards that end, and I couldn't be more thrilled. The one odd piece is that the order applies to people 18 and under. 18 is an adult. Why are we saying 18? It should be under the age of 18, not under the age of 19. I'm not saying that an 18-year-old should do this. I am saying that an 18-year-old is an adult. We have drawn that line, and that's the line. It's been that line for a millennia. That's the line. That's it. Now, I think we can ask a bigger question. Why would federal funds go towards this anyway, regardless? But children need to be protected more often than not from themselves. They need to be protected. But from this class of people, these gross people who want to engage in this abuse, protect the kids, and then let's talk about what we do to these adults. I'm Tony Katz. Oh, sorry about that. I had the dang microphone on mute for the live stream. I apologize. I do. So usually I close up shop right about now on the live stream, but I've got another hour of the show to go. So if you want, what we can do is I'll stick around because I have a bunch of stuff I still want to get to from the hearing of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So I do have a bunch more stuff that I want to share from that. So I'm gonna take the break because right now we're gonna break for the radio show, and hang out, and we'll be back. Keep it right here, guys. Follow me on YouTube and Rumble, Tony Katz, Twitter and Instagram, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, and find everything at TonyKatz.com. committing right now the most cardinal sin in all of the world. I'm eating popcorn. One does not know. When you're doing radio, you do not eat popcorn, and you do not eat like mixed nuts, cashews, or anything else, almonds, stuff like that, because that's the stuff you choke on. And when you're doing radio, it's a terrible idea. But I don't know about you. We do not make microwave popcorn in my house. We make it like on a stove, like grown-ups. And the people who make microwave popcorn are that stuff is so gross. This is, I mean, this is just that was perfect. Perfect. But you don't eat it before you go on air because it'll get caught, you coughing. Oh, it's going to be a mess. So I am living on the edge right now is what I'm doing. It was really good, and I couldn't help myself. Tony Katz today. That's the name of the show. Glad that you're here. It's producer Landon back in the studio, and we've got a lot more to get to, including, oh, look at that! Look at the Federal Reserve making moves. All right. You knew it was coming. You knew the fight was coming. Right there. We'll talk about that in a second. Glad you guys are here. We're here with the show. Let's go to work. The Federal Reserve saying, we know you want us to lower rates, but we're not doing it. Oh, we know we did it for Joe Biden, but we felt like we could get away with that. We felt like we could do that. We felt like that wasn't going to be a problem. You unbelievable fraud, Jerome Powell. You knew it was a problem. What you said is we don't care. We can't get this administration to stop spending. We cannot get people to listen to reason. So bake in inflation to everything that you do and every purchase that you make. We'll lower interest rates and say, see, don't you all feel better? You'll say it's not enough. We'll say it's 1%. What are you arguing with us for? And then maybe you'll learn that we've got an inflation issue because of the Biden spending, and it isn't going to go away today. Which then sets up the fight with Trump, as we have been discussing, because Trump wants low interest rates. And he ain't going to be happy until he gets them. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. 833-468-8669, 833. Got Tony. Stock market headed downward because you've got the Fed saying no to rate cuts. The Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged in that target rate of 4.25% to 4.5%. That's the benchmark. So wait, where's that putting the 10-year Treasury right now? Where's that putting the 10-year Treasury? Did it? Yep. Oh, there it is. There's a little bit of a spike. Hit it well into the 4.5s, but it's not actually as big of a spike as I thought it would be. It's kind of been where it is. For a while there, before the inauguration, we were getting into the 4.7s and the 4.8s, and you figure a 300 basis points spread between the 10-year and then the 30-year fix. So the 30-year fix is based off of the 10-year Treasury, 30-year fixed mortgage rate. And so we had mortgage rates for a while there at 7%. Then they came down a little bit. Mortgages and applications had come to a standstill. The national average right now, by the way, is a 7.05%, and it was just before the inauguration. So going back to January 19th, it was 7.11. That was the national average, which means, not many people apply for mortgages. Historically speaking, it's a fine rate. Compared to 3%, it's a disaster. Trump is fully aware of this. And Donald Trump is going to get flat out abusive abusive with Jerome Powell on this subject. And the demand that's about to come through to Jerome Powell about lowering rates going to be off the charts. Anybody who has spent any time thinking about these things knew that this was coming. 100% knew that this was going to be the way. That there was going to be a real anger here. And they knew there was going to be a real fight. Everybody knew this. So don't be surprised by what you're seeing with this move. Inflation is here. And until the spending stops, the inflation is staying. And you also have to take a look at some of the other issues that are going on, specifically China's depression. Oh, they can call it recession. They can call it slowdown. I don't trust these people at all. I'm calling it depression, and I'll let an economist tell me why it isn't. Well, that would involve a certain amount of quarters and a certain amount of lower GDP. These people lie through their teeth. Who was it? It was a Wall Street Journal story. Here it is. It was another property company in China having huge problems. Something called China Vanke, Vanke. They're warning of a $6.2 billion loss for 2024. This, it follows Evergrande. This follows, is it Country Garden? Is that the name of the other one? Evergrande, by the way, it was $80 billion. The shares have been down since 2021 was the peak. Falling off the cliff. Well, it's what happens when you build ghost cities and you engage only in this infrastructure for the sake of giving people jobs, but the infrastructure doesn't provide any value, and it doesn't give you what? Any return. Infrastructure in and of itself, and I'll let anybody, if they want, argue with me, or go ahead. I don't mind. Argue it with me. 833-468-8669. 833 got Tony at tonykatz.com. You can email me there if you're part of the live stream. Put in a comment. A road, a bridge, an airport does nothing for the economy until it is utilized. So an airport works to bring in visitors, which are spending money in the local economy, or other businesses where those businesses that you have where you are able to then grow and contribute locally. Maybe you can argue through taxation, but I always like to argue through what they do. Maybe it's expansion, land acquisition, a building, etc. The road provides absolutely no value in and of itself for being a road. It is what is done on the road, which is why it's so abusive when you see people saying, well, we should really have a tax for the people who do DoorDash. And you're like, I'm sorry, they want to do what? Oh, yeah. States are like, well, we need to get more revenue in the door. And so what we should do is we should charge the people who do like DoorDash and Uber Eats. We should charge them because they're driving so much on our roads. They're ruining our roads, and we'll teach them. So they'll increase the fees, which means you pay them, which means you'll spend less time utilizing DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats, and those restaurants go out of business. I have in my show sheet, if you go to tonykatz.com, if you're a part of what we're doing over there, you get the daily show sheet. You see what it is that I'm thinking about in any one day. And Colorado, it's an Axios story, death by 1,000 cuts regarding the Colorado restaurant industry. According to the story, it has been 5 years of rising costs of food, rent, property taxes, shrinking profit margins, growing regulatory pressures, budget-conscious diners. I work with some restaurant groups here. They'll all tell you the same. This has come to some people say this is personal for me. I don't talk like that, but let me give you a bit of connection. When my father passed away in June, I took over for lack of a better word, family business. So I was in this years ago and I left it to pursue radio. So this is years and years ago. My father, long time in the merchant services business, the credit card processing business. And so you're a retailer or you're an e-commerce site and you want to be able to accept credit cards. That's what he did. That's what he took care of. And for basic businesses and very odd businesses and large scale business, all sorts of things. And so that is known as the acquiring side of credit cards. There's the issuing side, which is actually here's your credit card. Here's your, from whatever bank you got it from. So that's the issuing side on the acquiring side. So I've taken this over and I used to do this many, many, many years ago. And so what you're seeing is these small businesses, whether they be restaurants or others, getting absolutely ripped apart by a myriad of fees that get associated far too often with credit card processing. And of course, what's going on in the world of rewards. So in the world of rewards, like you've got a certain rewards, Visa or rewards, MasterCard. Oh, you get points for this and points for that and points for the other. You understand that Visa nor MasterCard is paying for those points. It's not coming from them. It's coming from the merchant in which you made the purchase. So let's say the rate is here. I'm putting it it's a lower number. If you have the rewards card, you get charged, the merchant, the vendor gets charged a higher number for taking that credit card. So let's say it was a retail environment. Maybe they were paying 1.75% on the transaction. But now it's a rewards card, so they're paying 2.60 on the transaction. That's huge. The end user, the client, they never experience it. They're just like, "Ooh, got some rewards points. Gonna get some Starbucks gift cards because I am one basic bitch." I don't know. I assume that's what happens when you get Starbucks gift cards. That's it. Friends do not let friends drink Starbucks unless there are no other options. I've done it. I was at a conference. Over last weekend and flew down. That was the place, and they were the only ones open. So I went. I'm not saying that you can't go. I'm saying that you should really and truly limit it. You really and you really should. That spread is huge, and it's the end user never. Me with the credit card or you with the credit card swiping, you don't feel it. The merchant does. So this is adding to the increased cost. That's why you see, sometimes you'll see a fee, a convenience fee or surcharge for utilizing a credit card. That's where that comes from. And full disclosure, I provide that to people. Oh yeah. How can you even blame them? Visa, and you will see it, I think, in the Trump administration. It's the only place you'll ever find yourself agreeing with Elizabeth Warren, and it's only like a fraction, like that, like a little bit. Visa and MasterCard are abusive. They're abusive. It's awful the way they act and the way they treat customers, because then they'll tell you, okay, you could do these fees, but you're not allowed to charge this. You're not allowed to charge that. Who the hell's Visa, MasterCard to be in the business of deciding what it is I charge? It's my business. You don't get to tell me a damn thing. Stay in your lane. Or let's then end the level of monopoly power and allow 5 more people into the game. We'll see how tough you are then. That's all coming. That is all coming. I would argue in this term. So I do help people with this kind of stuff. It's weird that I do this, and I do that, but it was there, and I'd be foolhardy just to let it all go. It just didn't make any sense. So it's been a lot of getting things over in a proper format. My father was very, very old school, and I mean, if he could have run the whole business on the back of a diner menu, he would have done it, like a diner placemat or a napkin. Oh, good Lord. If my father had his druthers, he would have still had a ledger. instead of doing everything in Excel or something. It's been a doozy of a few months. These costs add on all these other costs, and it has been abusive. So the story from Axios is about Colorado, and in the Denver area alone, more than I should say statewide in Colorado, 200 plus restaurants closed in 2024. And Denver accounted for 82% of the losses. The city has lost 22% of its restaurants. That's a lot. That is a lot. Denver increased the tipped minimum wage. Oh, is that right? So in addition to all the things that are going up because of inflation, because of these interest rates, well, I should say the interest rates went up because the inflation went up. And until the spending goes down, the inflation will not go down. The interest rates can't really go down. You're now in Denver saying, well, we're going to show you how to be good to your employees. You have to pay everybody this much. Just like Visa, MasterCard, who the hell is the city of Denver to get involved in how the restaurant works? The restaurant pays what it pays based on the market, not based on what some jerk on a city council who thinks they're all high and mighty and special says, well, you can pay this. Well, we're going to go out of business. Well, I guess you weren't a good business owner. These progressives, and even if they're conservatives, my God, how gross. The minimum wage is pure evil, awful, damaging for the business owner, damaging for the employee. I'm only cribbing Milton Friedman when I say it, and I'm happy to get into that conversation another day. The point is, this economy is not good, and it hasn't been good. And it's going to take Trump a while to get things back. The confidence is high, and I like that. And I think it's incredibly valuable that the confidence is high, but the economy is a long way from being great. A long way. And some of these little things are going to have to be challenged and handled, and they're not so little. And some of these big things are going to have to be tackled. Interest rates are going to be one of them, which don't go down until spending goes down, so you have to tackle spending. Trump's not going to enjoy either one of those things. He may fight both of those things. But these are the things that are needed. And he won. So let's get to it. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. I ate more popcorn. I think I might have a problem. I think I might have a slight issue. I have some very disturbing audio from Chuck Schumer and then more from the RFK confirmation hearing. I've got that for you as well. Now there's another day of hearings tomorrow. I will tell you that my take is I don't think he did great. I don't think RFK did great at all. I think the left is so completely unhinged and insane that it's going to happen anyway. I'm telling you right now. Also, for those who don't know, here in Indiana, I do, and I'll take it on the road. I do live events. If you have not attended one, it's a good time. It's a very, very, very good time. And so I do these live events around the town. I do them. And we have one coming. Where's my little thumbnail thing? Where's my little? Oh man, I thought I had it. I was going to post it for you. April 17th. April 17th is what you want to get ready for. Tickets go on sale soon for the event. And there we go. We'll use that one. This isn't the official one, but it's still pretty cool. April 17th, 2025. Looking forward to it. Let's get back to the show. I'm telling you right now that what you're about to hear will clearly shock you. Maybe not. Maybe not. Tony Katz today. I do not know the context, but when I see the headline of Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, saying people are aroused, well, maybe better in his words. Someone's asking him a question. Still being asked a question.
The roots of democracy are deep. And what we're saying is go to your local official, your local congressman, your local senator, and have them get to the president. But the roots of democracy are deep. People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time in terms of trying to get this done. So yes, I think democracy will have an effect, and we are going to keep at it. We're going to keep at it legally. We're going to keep at it legislatively, but we're also going to keep at it in terms of the grassroots. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I need an adult. There is nothing. There's nothing more cringe than Chuck Schumer discussing people being aroused. Chuck Schumer turns a phrase the way he makes a cheeseburger. It's just not good at all. By the way, you know the cheeseburger story. There's a picture of him from Independence Day. I think it was Independence Day. And so he's out grilling and wishing everybody a happy Independence Day. And on the grill are some perfectly placed burgers, and one of them has cheese on it. The burger is raw. Wasn't flipped. It hasn't been cooking. It is raw. He's got a slice of cheese on there. He's so authentic. People are by what, by the way? What was he referring to? Was this all about fighting Trump? No, people are excited that things are actually getting done that they voted for, like the levels of deportations, like movement in protecting the border, hostages being freed. We're now hearing that not only will 3 hostages from Israel be released tomorrow, but I think it's somewhere between 7 and 8 Thai hostages are being released as well. I'm Tony Katz. Yeah, a lot going on. A tremendous amount going on. Okay, I've got a bunch of audio from the hearings. I've got Mark Warner. I've got Michael Bennett. I'm going to play the Bennett audio. Oh, I've got the Bennett audio twice. I don't know why I have the Bennett audio twice. Let me see. Is there a difference? Is there a difference in how long it is? Maybe that's it. Well, I'll figure that out right now. And then I'll skip the Sheldon Whitehouse stuff. And you already heard from Bernie Sanders, and you heard from Elizabeth Warren, who might as well be the same person at this stage of the game. Honestly, what's different? They dress alike. They kind of look alike. No, is that rude? Yeah, okay. There it is. So it is that one. Got it. Got it, and good. So I'll share that with you. Get rid of that right there. I think I got that right. Nope, I did that wrong. Look at me. So I will share that. I will get that done. And as I was saying, if you've got thoughts about things we should be adding to the live stream, I'm all in. I usually don't go this long, but it's good to be with you guys. For sure. You got questions. I have got answers. There's an argument going on right now in the chat over some comments and interviews that Tucker Carlson has done. And so there's this from Delbert. Who cares what a proven fraud like Tucker Carlson has to say? I don't think that's accurate. I think that's a mistake. I do not agree with everything Tucker Carlson says. I don't. I think that this whole thing about look at how great the Russian supermarkets is so silly. It's clearly wrong. It's clearly providing Putin a propaganda piece there. It is. You know, stuff about Barry Weiss. You just want to go to war with Iran. I don't want to go to war with Iran. This is me talking. I just know that life is easier without the mullahs, the hardliners, the clerics, and the Ayatollah. End of list. I'd say to Tucker's face, I'm not angry with the dude. But what, he shouldn't do an interview with Vladimir Putin? Of course he should. He shouldn't be able to have an opinion? Of course he should. One of the things that Tucker was able to do at Fox, and to a lesser extent now that he's on his own, and I'm assuming being on his own is more enjoyable for him. Very few in our industry get to start a conversation. The vast majority are responding to a conversation. They're engaged in reaction. They're not engaged in proaction. They're not engaged in making a conversation happen, starting an idea. He was, and to an extent, still is. But when Tucker's calling Barry Weiss fraud and a neocon on Joe Rogan's podcast, she's never been a conservative. I don't even understand what we're doing here. Anyway, we're back to the show.
Just for clarification purposes, because it was incorrectly reported yesterday, we have informed the federal workforce, which they've looked to do for many years, that if they're working for the federal government, they must show up to the office on time and on schedule. We don't want them. We don't want them to work from home because, as everyone knows, most of the time they're not working. They're not very productive. And it's unfair to the millions of people in the United States who are, in fact, working hard from job sites and not from their home. As federal employees, they must meet a high standard. They're representing our government. They're representing our country. If they don't agree by February 6th to show up back to work in their office, they will be terminated, and we will therefore be downscaling our government, which is something that the last 10 presidents have tried very hard to do but failed. Most of the people we're talking about have not been going to their federal offices in many, many years.
I'm in favor of people returning to the office if there is a value in them returning to the office. Not because it's unfair to other Americans, Mr. President. It's not about whether or not it's fair to me. It's about whether or not I'm getting what I need to get out of them. They work for me. If they're doing the work from home, you're not going to hear an argument. If the job is necessary. Now, if the job's unnecessary, you're going to hear from me. But if, like so many people who have decided working from home is the only way they'll do things, but they're not actually doing the job, they're doing 12 other things, they're not focused, they're not really logged in, they're not really caring, it's just been a vacation for the past couple of years because of COVID, well, then back to the office or goodbye, because we need efficiency. So if the argument is we need better efficiency, all good. It's not fair, that's not it. That's not it. Neither here nor there. I love the plan. Tony Katz today. What is going on? President Trump speaking there, and you see the memo from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, fork in the road, which is how Elon Musk explained it in his email to his employees when he was letting people go. He's like, hey, resign or show up. But if you're going to resign, do it by February 6th, and we will pay you through September of 2025. Send an email to HR@OPM, meaning Office of Personnel Management.gov. HR@OPM.gov. You have to do it from your government account. You got a .gov or you got a .mil. Type resign into the subject line. Hit send. That's it. Have a nice day. Gotta love it. Got to love it. No problem with that whatsoever. And federal employees who think that somehow they're entitled to this or entitled, no, you're entitled to nothing. Absolutely nothing. I think it's obvious to a lot of people that the vast majority of Americans who don't show up to the office aren't doing the job. And there are plenty of businesses paying people and they're not getting the results. They don't have to keep doing that. Certainly in the private sector, they can make choices there. In the public sector, I don't even want to hear these people complain. Just get back to the office like you were damn well told, or go work in the private sector. Go work for yourself. Learn to code. Are we back to that? Are we using that? No? Yeah? No? Maybe. Still racist? I don't know how, but sure, whatever. Learn to code. Meanwhile, the hearing there for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. If the left wasn't insane, they could have a real shot of not getting RFK confirmed, but they can't stop themselves. In a moment of non-insanity, although I think there was too much loud voices and yelling, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado gave, I think, RFK a worthy drilling, meaning utilizing his own words, own terms, own philosophies against him, which was fine to do, as a way of saying it's hard to trust what it is you might do.
Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for being here this morning. And I think that, Mr. Chairman, we are truly through the looking glass this morning here in the U.S. Senate, and this committee is being asked to fulfill a really important responsibility, which is to decide whether to confirm Mr. Kennedy to one of the most important healthcare jobs in America. And the reason I think it's so important is for many of the reasons you said in your opening statement, which is that we live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the worst health outcomes of any industrialized country in the world. We live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the lowest life expectancy rates of anybody in the industrialized world. I was a school superintendent before I was in this job, Mr. Chairman, and I can tell you that Mr. Kennedy's right, that when I look at the kids in the Denver public schools, if we don't change the way we eat in this country, 40% of them are going to suffer adult diabetes as a result of their diet. These are, and we're, as I said, spending more than any other country in the world, and our families, every single person's constituents in this Senate are facing chronic shortages when it comes to health care. My friend from Texas, Senator Cornyn, has been a champion on mental health care. We have an epidemic, as he knows, across this country in mental health care, partly because of what the massive social media platforms that were sitting behind the President of the United States have inflicted on our children for their profit in the last decade or so.
Now, that was a gross dig. You got Sundar Pichai from Google and Bezos from Amazon and Zuckerberg from Meta, Facebook, and Elon Musk from the Twitix there. You see, they're all supporting Donald Trump. They're responsible for all the mental health issues. No part of that was true, and these were all in your pocket, Michael Bennett, Democrat pockets, until very, very recently. So it's not. But the idea that we're not getting the results, all this money, and we still don't have a healthy society, I think is something, regardless of party, one could agree with. And if this is the conversation that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has wrought, I say fantastic. Good on him. Doesn't mean I want him as Health and Human Services Secretary, but you have introduced a conversation that really does connect with people. There's generalized agreement. Man, we're not in great shape.
We have no shortage of challenges to confront, and I even agree with some of the diagnosis of Mr. Kennedy. What is so disturbing to me is that out of 330 million Americans, we're being asked to put somebody in this job who has spent 50 years of his life not honoring the tradition that he talked about at the beginning of this conversation, but peddling in half-truths, peddling in false statements, peddling in theories that, create doubt about whether or not things that we know are safe are unsafe. Not that every vaccine in America is unsafe, not that you can't possibly have an adverse reaction, but that parents and children in my old school district and school districts all over this country would be better off not getting vaccinated than getting vaccinated. Unlike his own children who were vaccinated, unlike the people he invited to his house in Los Angeles for their party who were vaccinated. For everybody else, it's about peddling these half-truths. And he says it with such conviction that you want to believe him.
Now, you might say, who the heck is he talking to? What I would say to you is that Michael Bennett, the senator from Colorado, is actually connecting with people right there. He's getting people saying, whoa, what are these half-truths? Whoa. Is he being duplicitous? And he has drawn people in with this introduction. Instead of engaging in a screaming and a hysteria in an Elizabeth Warren way, he has tried through his acceptance of problems to lay out a case that this is the wrong guy to solve the problems.
And Mr. Kennedy, I just have there are many, many things in the record, but I hope that you could answer these questions yes or no. I've tried to ask these in a manner that's faithful to what you actually said, because I didn't want to have a debate about whether you actually said them. So I'm asking you yes or no, Mr. Kennedy. Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as a yes. I have to move on. I have to move on.
Now, he didn't say it. Quoting a study is different than saying, this only kills black and white people. But the Jews and the Chinese, they're fine. That's not what he said. And certainly one could look at a virus and look at people's physiology and say, well, these people are a little different than these people, a little different than these people, a little different than these people. So it affects this group differently than this group, than this group, than that group. That's not insane.
Move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said.
Now, if Bennett had actually kept this cool, this could have been more effective. What Bennett was going through was a list of things that he said. Now, yes, I'm with you. The first one is out of context. The second one is not. His words being laid out for everyone to hear.
Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy. And my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, I wouldn't leave abortion to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This
believe-
matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death.
It's government. A lot of these things are life and death. But then again, HHS also did a lot of lying during COVID. Bennett is saying, here's what he said. Now here's what he's coming to us and saying. You don't know what you can believe from him. Therefore, do not confirm him. I thought it was effective from Bennett. I think you can tear it down. I think you can bit by bit and block by block tear it apart. When he is saying, when RFK is saying, I didn't say that, and Bennett is saying, well, I'll submit it. It means it's going to be utilized as a talking point later that day or in the next days against him. Again, too much yelling, too much getting excited. Keep it here. Keep it easy. But Bennett was effective, I would say, because there were any strong rebuttals from RFK Jr. There's just none. Some things he said, but he said a lot of things about climate change, about abortion, a host of subjects. And so they used that against him. And I thought Bennett was effective. And if other Democrats had stuck to that, they could have been effective. But nope. They couldn't keep their calm. They couldn't keep their cool. They couldn't keep their heads. I'm not even in favor of RFK getting confirmed. And I believe he's going to get confirmed. Because I think Democrats may have moved a Republican or two to say, you know what? These people are crazy. Confirm them. Let's move on. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back to the show. We'll be wrapping things up in a little bit. Glad we got to cover a lot on RFK, but let me go to this comments here. At your peril, rhinos, if he doesn't get confirmed. You can call me a rhino if you want, but do you have any idea how ridiculous you sound? I mean, you sound effing crazy. Me. You're going to call me a rhino. Son, sit down. God. We got guys. We got people. If it's not RFK, we'll get somebody else. It has to be RFK? Whoa up. You didn't know his name 2 years ago. Now it's got to be him? Do you have any idea how silly you sound? And what is this tough guy at my own peril? What does that even mean? I guess I better get strapped at my own peril. What in the world? Don't talk like that, man. Don't be that guy. And also use rhino accurately. That would be most helpful. Anybody I don't like is a rhino. The whole rhino terminology. It creates these circles, right? Are you on the inside or are you on the outside? Which is exactly how socialism works, right? You're in the inner circle until you're not, right? You're really woke until you don't know the right woke word, and then you're on the outside. Look at them on the outside, which is what you say to prove that you're on the inside, or at least you hope you're on the inside, because you certainly don't want to be on the outside. It's leftist talk. I think there are absolutely conservative ideals that the Republican Party should have, and there have been over the years Republicans who don't live up to them. John McCain, I think, is one of those people on a great number of subjects. But with RFK, man, he wanted to throw people in jail for not believing in climate change, and he's all about abortion. He disagrees with Trump on abortion and it being killing. To be opposed to that makes you a rhino? I believe I started with sit down, and I mean every word of it. Oh, and the people all said, sit down, you're rocking the boat. I do like a good musical, people. I really do. On the edge of my seat for RFK Jr. After today, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring with the hearing. I'll bring it to you. I think he gets confirmed with 51. That's where I'm thinking he is right now. It could be a 50-50 and a J.D. Vance tiebreak. But I think that the Democrats could have actually done something here. They chose not to do it. Let's get back to the show.
But to me, this was the worst of all. It's a landmark law that we're doing today. It's going to save countless innocent American lives. I want to thank every House Republican, every Senate Republican, as well as the 12 Senate Democrats and the 48 House Democrats who voted to pass this vitally important bill, and many of them are with us today, and I really do appreciate it. And I very much especially appreciate the bipartisan support. The Democrats, really a big percentage of them came through, and plenty of them wanted to. They probably felt they couldn't, but they really wanted to. That they don't understand that would have made them a lot more popular, would have made them a lot better with their people. The ones that didn't they're going to be sorry, because the people are not going to forget that they wouldn't sign. This is a perfect.
He's talking about the Lake and Riley Act, which has now been signed into law, and I'm very happy to see it. Democrats not voting for this. Silly. It's a complete misunderstanding of where the American people are in every single way. You see, the American people are in favor of kids being healthier, not necessarily of RFK. They're in favor of the idea. They may not be in favor of Donald Trump, but they're in favor of saying illegal immigrants coming to America and killing American citizens is not something we are going to sit by and just let happen. I'm glad this legislation got signed. I'm just sorry it was necessary. Find everything I do at TonyKatz.com. Tomorrow, everyone, take care. And that is how we do a radio show, people. I'm glad that you are here. I can't thank you enough for sticking around. I never do 3 hours. Never. But I'm glad we got to do it. I can't thank you enough. Subscribe, like, do all the things. I'd appreciate it if you would. And I will catch you tomorrow. You guys take care.